Yeah, so, ladies and gentlemen, as we are starting the session straight away, kindly take your seats, or if you are kindly needing a cup of coffee or tea, you can bring it in or come back with your cups of coffee and tea. Next, we'd like to invite on stage Mr. Shakti Singh Choudhary, Honorable Mayor of Gangtok Municipal Corporation, and along with him, we're joined by Honorable Mayor of Srinagar, Mr. Junaid Azim Battu. Please put your hands together. Mr. Junaid is the current mayor of Srinagar with Minister of Rank, State Rank and Status. At 34 years, he's one of the youngest mayors of the country. Educated in the United States, Junaid Battu was a financial analyst before moving to Jammu and Kashmir in 2020 to participate in politics and the mechanism of grievance redressal. Ladies and gentlemen, I also have pleasure in presenting before you another panelist, Dr. Bhakti Devi, who is a PhD in urban water management. She is a strong advocate for integrated urban water management and decentralized water, as they hold the key to solving the urban water crisis. She is the founder of a water impact social enterprise called Urban Water Doctor, whose mission is to transform water-stressed communities in the city to become water positive. Prior to relocating to India in 2018, Dr. Bhakti spent the last 15 years of a professional career pushing the envelope of local city councils and water utilities in Australia to help them become more sustainable, more service-focused, and more community-driven. Some of her noteworthy contributions include decentralized water master plan for the city of Sydney and stormwater harvesting scheme in Australia for non-potable supply. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Dr. Bhakti Devi. Also on our panel is Mr. Vijay Kumar, South Asia representative, Australian Water Partnership. He is a water and environment specialist working with the Australian Water Partnership as a South Asia representative. He has been instrumental in increasing collaborations within the water sector at a government-to-government level between Australia and India. He holds a management degree from the Institute of Rural Management, Anand, and has been actively working in the water and environment sector for more than 12 years. He has been instrumental in bringing many water and wastewater treatment technologies and management expertise from Australia to the South Asian market. Mr. Vijay has represented the Australian Water Partnership at various industry and government forums and has been a speaker in various online conferences and seminars on water resources management in India and Australia. Please welcome, with a round of applause, Mr. Vijay Kumar, South Asia representative, Australia Water Partnership. Also on our panel, ladies and gentlemen, whom I would like to welcome and present for you is Mr. Puneet Srivastava, Urban Wash Advisor for Utilities WaterAid India. In his career spanning more than 2 decades of work on water supply and sanitation, he has worked for national and international projects comprising of the US, Ghana, India, West Africa, South Sudan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and Bangladesh, and that too from India. Puneet Srivastava is a professional civil engineer and holds a master's in ecology and environment and a diploma in human resource management. He has also worked with DFID India, the World Bank, assisted UP and Uttaranchal rural water supply and sanitation projects, Feedback Ventures Private Limited, HealthPro Consulting Limited, UNICEF, German Development Corporation, ICRC Geneva, and WaterAid, that is India WaterAid. Please put your hands together for Puneet K. Srivastava. We also have Ranjan K. Panda, convener for Combat Climate Change Network India. He is a sociologist by education, has more than 2.5 decades of experience facilitating several initiatives, starting from grassroots to national level to promote water and environment conservation. He convenes 2 active networks, Water Initiatives Odisha and Combat Climate Change Network in India. He is a well-known expert on water, on sanitation and climate change issues, and also a senior freelance journalist, popularly known as Waterman of Odisha and also as the climate crusader in India. He was awarded by the President of India with the first Green Hero by NDTV Toyota. Come on, put your hands together for that. He was also provided as Odisha's Conservation Master by Hindustan Times and by as AquaGuard by New India Express. He has been recognized as Mahanadi River Waterkeeper by the New York-based Global Waterkeeper Alliance. He has many more awards and recognitions to his credit, and sure, we are honored to have him grace this occasion. Ranjan K. Panda, ladies and gentlemen. It's now over to the chair of this session, Professor T.G. Sitharam, Director, IIT Guwahati.
Very good afternoon to all of you. First of all, the distinguished panel on the dais and distinguished delegates of the dais, and also the organizers of the 5th South Asian City Summit. Thank you all. Water, I should not say much, it's crucial to all of us. But I see the attendance in the hall, I think mobility had more people than the water. Water and cities, today's topic. And particularly that we are discussing when we have only 10 years left to meet our sustainable development goals, where India is also a signatory. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know we had, since independence, shortage of water. Actually, whether shortage or management shortage of water. India only realized when Chennai and Bangalore ran out of water. But we are having a shortage of water. Whether it is really a true shortage of water, we will discuss, and maybe many of the panelists will also highlight it. Just to give you some statistics to you before I move on to my thought process and then invite the panelists. The mega cities, which has more than 10 million population or 10 million inhabitants, are only 9% of the world population. So we can see why cities are really getting so much importance. Even in India, we do have large number of mega cities, 3 of them, and then many of them are inching towards the mega cities, 1 million inhabitants. However, we all know and we agree, India is a still village-centric population. Our 2/3 of our population still lives in villages. Even in 2050, ladies and gentlemen, all statistics tell you will not become 50% urbanized. It's very difficult. But the people are moving to urban areas in search of jobs, in search of education, in search of healthcare. All that is true. But in 2050, even our villages will be the dominant thing. We have more than 6 lakh villages in India. And even in the urban areas, urban poor are actually paying more to the water than the urban dwellers. That is because of the way in which we operate our water supply system. A civilization of 5,000 years old, which gave the whole world how to do a water supply system and a sewerage system, going to Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, can't even climb one village or one town or one urban area with a piped water supply system to an entire house. That is the fact. And now coming to the sustainable development goals, water is a key area. If you actually look at, even though water, drinking water and sanitation is the goal 6, but if you go through all the 17 goals, I think water touches all the goals. And water is very, very critical. Even that picture actually shows you. And our Honorable Prime Minister has created a new Jal Shakti department, compliments to him. It's a very, very unique. And then the hope of making a 5 trillion economy. See, if you want to become a 5 trillion economy, the people who are in our villages have to start functioning and our need with the innovative. Their annual income should go up. To do that, water is going to be the critical. Because our still is an agricultural community. And I will show you, agriculture actually uses 80% of the stored water what we have in our country. 80% of the stored water what we are using goes to agriculture. And your domestic consumption is only 6 to 8%. Entire India, I am talking about. And industrial is something like 10 to 12%. Agriculture is the key for us. If you are able to save water, you want to really utilize water, reduce, reuse, recycle. If you do even a little bit in agriculture, you will save a lot of water. Actually, that has to be a message. So that means we need to educate our agriculture needs to optimally learn. So we need to learn from Israel, not desalination, ladies and gentlemen, how to really optimally use water in agriculture. That's the country actually is done fantastically well. So if you want to really turn India into a 5 trillion economy, our villages have to be innovating, and water is the key sector. Without water, our people start moving outside to urban areas in search of jobs. Because water is the key for all the villages. So we need to move from water shortage to security. Please listen to my word. Water shortage to security. Actually, if you look at the statistics of India, India is blessed with monsoons. If you look at the water statistics for the last 140 years, I looked at it. Not even one single year we have gone down by 1000 millimeter average rainfall. Can you call a country with 1000 millimeter annual rainfall as a shortage, water shortage country? No way. It's a huge amount of water. If you look at the amount of water we have stored since independence, is only 8% of, I'm only talking about large dams. I think there will be somebody who said water commission can really count to this. 8% of the water which falls on our land is stored in our large dams. See, Jawaharlal Nehru, when I was born in 1962, inaugurated the Bhakti Dam. And he said, modern temples of India are going to be the dams. And we had at that time 300 large dams. 300. What did we do or what did we achieve in 70 odd years in terms of storing water in our dams? Actually, we have forgotten all our conventional wisdom of storing in small tanks. Since independence. After Nehruji told us that is going to be the modern temple of India. We have 6,000 large dams. We are the third largest dam building nation in the world after America and India. Sorry, America and China. 6,000 large dams, and we are the only country building large dams in the world now. 265 dams in the northeast, where I come from. And what is the quantity of water we have stored? With all the 6,000 dams, we have only stored 8% of annual rainfall stored in the large dams. And all our keres, kuntes and lakes are vanished, particularly city of Bangalore can claim where from 400 to 500 lakes to now hardly 30 and with all sewage. This is the status of our water storage system. So ladies and gentlemen, I would like to make one remark. India is not running out of water. Water is actually running out of India. If you look at the monsoons, still same rainfall is coming, 1000 millimeter. 90% of the water simply joins the ocean every year religiously, but the period with which it joins is reduced now because of it. It used to be 6 months, now it happens everything in 2 months. 2 to 3 months, majority of the water simply joins the ocean. So the status has not changed. What Dr. Sir Arthur Cotton said, as early as 1800s. You know, Arthur Cotton actually fought for the Andhra people and built the barrage. He said, entire Thames River water, entire water for the year, 1 year flow of water is equivalent to 1 day of flow of Godavari into the Bay of Bengal. 1 day of Godavari water, which joins the ocean, is equivalent to entire flow of Thames River in the entire year. You can imagine, he argued and then he constructed the barrage, and today both East Godavari and West Godavari people is the rice bowl of Andhra Pradesh. Remembers Dr. Arthur Cotton as a god. So that situation has not even changed even today. Coming to Godavari. Godavari water, majority of the water simply joining the ocean. So that means what we are saying is, water, India is not running out of water, water is running out of India. And there is no shortage of water, ladies and gentlemen, there is a shortage of storage. This storage we need to augment, and Indians are so good in the olden times. They had, every small village had a small tank, and there was a person to manage water. So water management was actually distributed and very well managed, so that groundwater recharge happens regularly. And today, most of this water simply runs into the ocean. Unless we understand our villages had shortage since independence, we only realize that these people have to migrate. Otherwise, when water is very critical, even our body has 70% of water. And similarly, every need, every job what you do requires water. And as I told you, agriculture is the one which requires large amount of water. 80% of the water is what we are told used by the agriculturists. So we should actually not just look at Chennai, Bangalore and these urban areas. We should actually make water available to every village, so that our women folk will be easier to, you don't need to carry the water in the head. Even today, that situation exists in our country. So this has to change. Unless this changes, neither we will become $5 trillion economy, nor we are going to solve the supply of water both in cities as well as in cities. And another thing, water and health are very closely related. You have to have large amount of water to have a Swachh Bharat and all our Swachh villages. So water is the key for even and our health and hygiene. It depends on water. So with these few remarks as the initial setting up the stage for discussion of today's panel, we have a very distinguished panel. I'm not going to go through my presentation because I did prepare, because the organizers asked me to make a presentation about 20 minutes. But I think looking at the time, I think I will spare that for the benefit of discussions. So I will go with the discussion. But I will have some key questions to the speakers when they address. I would like the panel to address how important the water to our urban areas and our villages. I think if they can distinguish clearly, that will actually be healthy, because I just told you, India's 2/3 population lives in villages, even today. And it will, by 2050 also, we may not touch 40% urbanization. Second question is how much water quality is important. And third, where are going to be putting our large dams? Because we are only building large dams. Where are they going to be? Because after Sardar Sarovar was inaugurated in 2017, it took almost 54 years, ladies and gentlemen, to finish the project Sardar Sarovar Dam. 54 years. So where our grandchildren are going to drink water from? Are these dams are going to be the water dam? Because please remember one more point. All these dams which are constructed with concrete, concrete is a material, I am a civil engineer, I am telling you, will only survive for 100 years. Beyond that it becomes like a powder. So even assuming that you are going to grout and improve and all that, another 10 years, it's like putting a stent into your heart to pump the blood. So it only increases maybe another 10 years. So what is going to happen after 110 years? We have already lost, because our majority of the dams are constructed between 1950 to 1970. So all these dams, which are concrete dams, are going to fizzle out and have to demolish them after 150 years. Where are our grandchildren are going to drink water from? Are these large dams are going to be the source of water for us? So I would like some of the panelists to address this question. With these few remarks, I again thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to raise some of the thoughts to the august audience, and I hope we will have a very interesting panel discussion and also questions from the floor. Thank you very much. Now I will request Mr. Shakti S. Choudhary, Honorable Mayor of Gangtok Municipal Corporation, to say.
Namaskar. First of all, I would like to thank ALSG to give me opportunity to come here and speak something on the water topic. Like, I don't have any presentation because I would like to tell that we, Gangtok Municipal Corporation, is a very new corporation. It was formed in 2010, and from 2010 to 2015 I was a deputy mayor, and from 2015 I am a mayor out there. And the water department is looked after by Public Health and Engineering Department. But whatever I know, I will try to give you a brief idea of what we have got. Like our professor was saying that water is a big problem. Like in our state, being a hilly station, our water shortage is not there. We don't have any water problem because our main source of water is snowfall. But and from the snowfall, that what happens is water is transported to the water treatment plant, and from there it goes to the city, and it is through gravity. You don't have like the location of the water treatment plant is a very high altitude, so that problem is not there. But main problem what we are facing is that whatever funds we get, like being a new state, we were joined in the Union from 1975. Before 1975, we were a very separate country. And now, after last 10 years, what happened means, tourist inflow has increased a lot. Like our 2011 census, our population was only 1 lakh. But tourist inflow at present goes around 30 lakhs per annum, which is a big stress on our infrastructure, basic infrastructure. And secondly, what happens is that what the professor says is that we have said that the storage capacity, that water, the source of water from where we get is from the snow-fed mountains. So, but the storage capacity is so limited that once you it's only enough to supply 1 hour of water to our city. Once it is supplied, the tank gets nil. So to fill up the storage tank, you have to wait till evening to supply the water for the next morning. So evening, in our state, the flat rates are there. We supply morning 1 hour, evening 1 hour. But if evening we supply there, and suppose that during the night time there is a heavy rainfall is there, and there is a landslide at a higher altitude, the water line gets washed away. Due to that, if there is if you are not able to repair within 12 hours, the city runs out of water. And secondly, what problem we are facing is like if people here have got mayor from Srinagar, in the hill areas, like we have people from Nepal and all, we had called dharas. Dharas used to be there. Dharas is some mountain streams where surrounding people, these are very urban area, people used to feed the water. Like the professor said, last 10 years, we have given hydro project, means 28 hydro projects are coming up in our state. Like second biggest, after Bhakra Nangal, second biggest power project of 1200 megawatt is in our state. And what reverse effect it has been, that is what people who are staying downstream, because the dam stores the whole of the water, people who are down in the river are facing that problem because groundwaters are drying up, and due to that the dharas, which the mountain streams are there, they dry up during the winter season. In the monsoon it is okay because it is to be a very good source of water for the peri-urban area. That is there. So I agree with the professor that dams are not going to help us. And secondly, what it means, we don't have the shortage of land is there in our place, so we can't have a big capacity storage system. And secondly is the distribution system. Distribution system is what means, what problem we are facing is the water supply is not to the pumping station, it is to the gravity. So the controlled water supply is not there. So people have a habit that who are staying down there, they want to have a pipeline connection from the higher altitude so that he gets the water, maximum water he can. So due to that we are facing problem. And secondly is distribution. I said we had a project on the Australian government 10 years back, but it was not successful because of the terrain. Because the terrain is that we said that we were debunching of the pipelines was there. We have constructed junctions where a distribution center at different locations. But people, what they say is, as per our Indian record, they say that we can supply the water at the base level. But what the people want, that the water pressure should be that it rises up to the terrace. Being a hill station, we don't have a area where we can, a small area, maximum house, people consider it 30 by 30. And we don't have a policy where we can have a reservoir at the ground floor. So people have all the reservoir at the roof level. And they want that the water supplied by the government should have such a pressure that it should directly go up to the 5th floor or 6th floor, which is a allowed limit. So that are the many problems we face. I think from here I learned something from the digital panel and the other questions, and it will help us to go further. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next speaker will be Mr. Vijay Kumar, Sandesh representative of Australian Water.
Thank you, sir. Slides, please. Next. So, these are a few questions I have put into the audience because we have a very esteemed audience of mayors, city managers, city officials, for political leadership as well present here. And I'm sure these questions definitely comes to all of our mind. Maybe the context changes, like in summer we talked about water scarcity, localized again. I do agree with Professor Sitharam that yes, India on average is not water scarce. We do get enough rainfall. The question of management, and then we do have localized scarcity and flood problems. So these questions do come to our mind. In summer season we talk about scarcity. The moment the monsoon comes in, we start talking about the flooding season. And we forget about all the water worries. And similarly, be it the city administration, municipal council or PHED, they also stop worrying about water supply after the rainy season. There is no scarcity, yet that's fine. Then the question comes in, how do we manage our stormwater drains? So these are the questions we go through it, and this is something which I want you to ponder upon through the presentation and going forward as well. When we talk about the sustainable cities, when we talk about sustainable communities, when we talk about a coexistence of nature and urban development together. Next week. So we do all know that all the urban development do have an impact on the existing water supply and water resources of the cities, and the other way around as well. Water resources do influence the place where you want to have a development. If there is a wetland, if you build, then your cost of development will be more. But there is a trade-off. Every city, as we talked about, finance is a major concern for smaller cities. So then where do you get the money from if you don't do urban development? That's the source of revenue. But we need to have a balance. We need to do an assessment. All the cities do a lot of master planning. In master planning, do we really do water planning? We tell to the village people, you should do a water budgeting. But do as a city, we do our own water balance studies? Do we ever do a water business study? Do we know how much groundwater my city has? Do we know how much surface water my city gets every year? What is the fresh water demand? It is more of an assessment. I'm talking about the real data. That data is missing. So as a city manager, as a city official, city leader, we need to think about these questions. So I would like to share with you a concept of water sustainable urban design, which is sort of a coexistence of nature. So it's a way to replicate the urban designing, retrofitting the urban settings in line with the natural water cycle. It's nothing new, it's more of an aspirational concept. So the vision of a water sensitive urban design is an aspirational concept which emerged as part of city to meet the city's water need as well as to meet the future needs and make the city more livable, resilient and sustainability part of it to be addressed. Next please. So as I said, water sensitive urban design is a concept which is being applied in some countries. It's a different name, some cities use a different name, but it's more about how do you integrate your urban planning with the existing water resources planning as well, and then that leads to a more happy community. So that's the whole idea. You can name it some else, but the whole concept remains behind integrating the urban planning with the water resource planning. So that's what this concept is all about. So I just skip this slide. It's probably known to most of the people here. Next please. So based on the water sensitive urban design, a cooperative research center for water sensitive cities in Australia, we developed a water sensitive city index. That index actually talks about, it's a tool for coordinated action among different stakeholders of the cities. It's not only about the managers, the engineers who design the water pipeline, but also about the communities. Involving them, understanding what are their aspirations, what are their definition of a water sensitive city, what exactly they want from their perspective, what is their definition of a water secure city or a water sensitive city, how do they live to coexist without hampering or damaging the natural water flow cycle. So that's the whole concept based on this water sensitive city index for design. This is currently being used across 20 cities across the globe. And this was the principle also used for designing of the Amravati city, the capital city of Andhra Pradesh. And this will be implemented as well. So some of the designs will be implemented. Next please. So these are the 7 indicators when we start designing the water sensitive index. This can also be a benchmarking tool. So currently we have 100 smart cities in India, then we have another round of smart city phase 2 mission will come up. This can be a classical tool to understand how cities are coping up or planning to cope up with the climate change scenario and going to address their water city, how cities are doing compared to each other, like how Chennai is doing comparison to Bangalore or Mumbai, how they are going to address it and learning from each other. So that's a tool, that's an online platform being provided for cities to compare their performances against the different parameters. Next please. So to achieve the goals of a water sensitive city, it's not a, I'll say, it's not a formula that can be given, it's a path. It's a journey that cities, communities has to travel together in a way that you need to move away from large infrastructure based, heavy capital based infrastructure to more integrated, decentralized and flexible infrastructure. For example, it cannot be applicable to all cities in as context, but it has to be customized, it has to be flexible. Next, please. So, in terms of some of the key actions that we can take, just my thoughts, and probably will welcome your ideas to what you call add on to more thoughts. So to begin with, what would be the mini step or the baby step that as a city manager we can take to look at integrating water planning? So basic thing is we all have stormwater drains in our cities that converted into a sewage drain because we don't manage our stormwater properly. As Dr. Sitharam has said, it runs off to oceans, it runs off to our water bodies, hampering water quality, polluting our water bodies. So we can start with putting basic litter traps to address the solid waste, stopping them from not going into our water body with a source of water supply. We can look at pervious pavements so that allow the rainwater go beneath the soil to reach our groundwater rather than running off. We can look at biofilters for treating our stormwater drains so it becomes clean and it doesn't dump garbage into our water body, the pristine water bodies which are the source or lifeline of these cities. So with this, I'd like to quickly, this is just about my organization, so Australia Water Partnership. We do work with government to government level. We do work a lot in capacity building training with government of India. I'd like to run a quick 1 minute menti.com call just to take your perspective, the audience perspective on your idea of the water sensitive cities. If you can put it online, you can go on menti.com, you will see a code. I think you all have got a Wi-Fi password and ID, so will not be a problem. This is just to get a perspective. I mean, what's your idea as a citizen, as a city official, as a commissioner of city? What is your idea of? So there are a few questions that have been put up in terms of how secure is the water, how water secure is the city? Is it 100%? You're sure that for next 20 years there's not going to be any water issue in your city, or it's 50%? What is your idea? And you can put up, go to menti.com, you can put up something. I'm just put up the code. I'm just throwing these questions to ponder upon, not now, but we can take it up later. So thank you, sir. Thank you.
I think you can answer those questions on the website of menti.com. Okay, in the meantime, I will request the third speaker, Dr. Bhakti Devi, urban water management.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bhakti Devi, and I'm here representing a social enterprise called Urban Water Doctor. And just briefly, my background is I'm a civil engineer, environmental engineer, worked in the water sector. So whenever we are looking at the solution, it is important to look at both how we manage the supply, how do we get more water from somewhere, but also look at what do we do with our demand, how do we manage our demand, how do we optimize our demand. It is not only about building a new dam and one dam after the other, building another borewell after the other. It's also to look at what's the demand being whether it's Kathmandu, every single city for the last 10 years is coming up with the same headlines over and over again, and we're stuck at that same position. Because if you go on YouTube, any city's water crisis, over 10 years it's the same story. So what is it about this repetition that happens, and it's happening to one city after the other? So coming to the factors. Let us understand that every single city has been designed to supply water from a source that is located far away from the water users. And of course, as the cities grow, the water source becomes more and more away because the city is continuously growing. So what that means is that source has to deal with one of the factors that's importantly contributed is the uncontrolled population growth. So we know cities grow. Cities don't not grow. They're not static. So if you are a city is continuously growing, the source of water does not grow. It can only keep on supplying that city up to a certain point in time. And all cities around the world are more than 100 years old now. So this water source that started servicing the city is no longer. You can keep looking for another dam, another source, but it no longer services, which is evident in Chennai and Bangalore, where people have been now restricted to 1 day, a week. Even new houses are being built with no supply. And what do? Because of no supply, they start drilling the wells, and the wells are now getting depleted. And that is because, of course, the climate change is also creating that, the patterns are changing. So I'll just go through the system. So let us now come to, let us understand, cities are a growing population, uncontrolled. Secondly, the source is limited. Climate change is happening. That's the external factors. You may not be able to control it as much. Let us now look at what is to do with the water system itself that has contributed to the problem. The water system itself, as I said, first of all, we start with a finite source. Secondly, what we do is, it's a linear system, which means the entire system of all cities is water supply system, and the sewage management is extract, use and dump. Extract, use and dump. So over 100 years, of course, the fresh water will be continuously depleting, and we have plenty of water. It's just we have a lot of polluted water. We have not caught up with even managing the sewage. So catching up with water supply is another issue. So you are always, it's a predictable consequence that every city will end up with no depletion of the fresh water and increase of the polluted water. It's a predictable consequence. So let us acknowledge that the cities and the way they are growing and the way the water supply system has been designed, which is ancient, is predicted to happen. That's the way the system is, a linear system works. So it's unsustainable. And what happens when that pipe system fails? People start drilling bore wells, which is also a linear system. You're extracting, and the bore wells dry, and then you open another bore well, and you extract, and you extract, and you extract. So of course, bore wells also will dry. It's a predictable consequence of a bore well being dug in a city, which is cities is growing. So that's what I mean by the factor on the water system is because it's uncontrolled extraction and linear system. Next please. Yes. So the water utility related factors are, so that is to do with the system, the physical system. Now let us understand how the water utility as an agencies work in most cities. They are operating in separate silos. So you have a sewage department, you have a storm water department, you have a water supply department. Whereas every single water is just one. ultimately it's a water resource, one resource, and if you want to utilize all of them as a resource, you can't operate in silos. So the silos has also contributed. The second is the lack of coordination with city planning. So most of the water utilities around the world, they don't speak to the planners. Planners don't speak to the water utilities. The planning, the growth happens, water utilities always are catching up with the growth, and they're never able to meet the demand of the growth. And it's always a catch-up game happening. And on top of that, it's an unsustainable system. The third factor within the way the water utilities operate is, over the years, there has been a lack of diversity in the discipline. You only have engineers mostly running water utilities. So it's a mono-discipline, it becomes a group thing. There's no innovation. It's a monopoly. So once you have a monopoly, no competition, no need to innovate, and only one discipline deciding how that should operate. And therefore, you don't get diversity of ideas, and therefore there's no innovation in the 100 years. The fourth factor is there's also lack of gender diversity. Entirely, it's mostly technical managerial roles are mostly held by men. And you need more and more diversity within the staff also to get new ideas. So, in other words, this whole business model with which the water utilities operate is also very, very ancient. It's become a dinosaur, 100 years old. So what is the solution? Solution, of course, is you can do as much as you can. As you can see in smart cities, you're doing small incremental changes you may be able to do, because it's a very large organization trying to deal with a lot of issues. It's not easy, it's a very challenging job. However, what we can do is what we call as integrated urban water management, which can be done at small scale systems. So you don't need large solutions. The future of water in the cities lies in small circular systems which are operated and planned by local water users and local municipalities. Local municipalities have to work with the water users and create small systems which are closing the loop, because water has got its amazing potential that it is water by nature is regeneratable. You can regenerate water, you can remove the pollutants and make new water, and that is where the solution lies. And it is technically doable, it is financially doable, but it just needs to become socially doable by the help of municipalities doing the right policies, doing the right planning, not depending on only the 24/7 funding and the state government funding. Within their own power, they can make use of the stormwater, the sewage that's generated within their jurisdiction to create small systems. And I have already done this with a few municipalities in Australia, and it is very much possible to do within India also. And that is the most important message I would like the municipalities to take away, that start looking at your own water that falls within your premise, within your area as a resource. And if you decide not to let any single drop of it leave unused, then you can solve the water crisis.
Thank you.
That's the important message.
Thank you very much. So I think we will move on to the next speaker. We'll take up the questions later. Mr. Junaid Azim Mattu, the mayor of Srinagar, Congressman among us. Thank you.
I would start by congratulating the All India Institute of Local Self-Governance for another successfully organized event, and thank them for giving me this opportunity to share the stage with such a distinguished panel. Before I get to my experiences as a city leader in Srinagar and what I believe water management entails on a policy level on ground zero, I've heard such great speeches, and the first most important thing, the foremost pre-qualification to resolving our problems on a policy level is for the political leadership as well as the bureaucracy to understand that we are not experts. Our answer to expertise is the Indian Administrative Service. And I don't mean any disrespect. I think that is the biggest bane we have in resolving our issues. we expect IAS officers to resolve issues that demand expertise of a doctorate level in research of nearly 2 decades. And we expect somebody who's fast enough to resolve those. So those are our problems. And I say that because of the insights that I've heard from this wonderful group. The city of Srinagar has a population now around 14 lakhs, 1.4 million. It is historically settled on the 2 banks of the river Jhelum. We were considered to be, the Kashmir Valley was considered to be a valley of water bodies, a valley of lakes. In, I think, 1998, the Department of Remote Sensing conducted a satellite survey and found that we have 500 water bodies and lakes in the Kashmir Valley. And I think 13 to 14% of them fell in the Srinagar basin. I think those have dwindled by a half in the last 20 years. Literally by a half. Then we have the world famous Dal Lake, which is a white elephant, where successive governments have pumped nearly 780 crores and have failed to recover a single inch or rehabilitate a single household family. That is a completely different debate. We are also, surprisingly, a city of natural springs. And one of the first things I realized when I became the mayor is that we have absolutely no mechanism to conserve and preserve our springs. Most of our lakes are spring-fed. The Jhelum River, to a great extent in South Kashmir, is a spring-fed river. And the Jhelum, for example, which is considered to be the lifeline and life arterial blood of Srinagar city, in the South Basin, its capacity, spring-fed capacity, has gone down by half, by 50%. And that is considered to be the lifeblood of Srinagar city. So we have dying springs, that is a big issue. I believe the problem in Srinagar has been that of centralized planning. This one-size-fits-all syndrome. And I believe that is a problem that we face in every sphere of public policy. This one-size-fits-all standardized pro forma solution for everything. There are areas which need a focus on natural springs, there are areas which need a focus on underground water, then there are areas which need a focus on probably water recycling, and different mechanisms of water management. Our rivers, obviously, our proximity to glaciers is more than that of other cities because we are right at the foothills of the Himalayas. Most of our glaciers are retreating at an alarming pace. I don't want to go into the doomsday scenario, but if we actually go into the statistics, most of our glaciers will disappear in the next 50 years. And that's the primary source of our major rivers. So we are starting, the Srinagar Municipal Corporation is starting to preserve the springs that are left in Srinagar now. We are trying to do that in a very sensitive, scientific manner. We are also, I was really amazed to see what the transition of a water supply city to a water sensitive city entails. That you need to be a seaward city, you need to be a drain city. The confusion between drains and sewers in this part of the world is another problem. We consider every drain to be a sewer and every sewer to be a drain. The reality is that I'll talk of Srinagar. There is no sewerage or septage network in the Srinagar city. It's a congested city. So our stormwater drains have fecal matter flowing directly into our water bodies. And that is a pandemic waiting to happen, especially in an ecologically sensitive state. So we have never distinguished between sewers and drains, at least not at the policy level. Now the smart city program, we are a smart city, allocated smart city, entails some spending on the sewer system. But what happens down at the bureaucratic level to ensure that the funds don't lapse, they very, in a very systematic manner blur that difference between a sewer and a drain. In the final outcast, they'll say that हमने sewer भी बना लिया sir, 99%, और drain भी बना दिया. And the reality is that they fail on both accounts. We don't have sewers, we don't have drains. Water security, we don't have a water security problem in terms of quantity. We have a water security problem in terms of acceptable quality. And I don't believe quantity is the only barometer of water security. We have a acceptable quality issue when it comes to water security, and we have an issue of reliability, which all Indian cities do. And you know, again, just on the top of my mind, a distinguished speaker before me said that, you know, the chair of the panel said that most of India still lives in villages. But the reality is, and for the profession we're in politics, we keep traveling and campaigning and know the actual nature of villages. Most villages are evolving into semi-towns. You know, they're urbanizing and evolving within. It's a metamorphism which defies the categorization of a village and a city, but most villages are becoming small towns. You'll see a cluster of 5 villages in a small little town with concrete structures bang in the middle, with the challenges that come with urbanization. Srinagar has similar challenges. And our biggest challenge is that we have not decentralized policy till now. We've failed to decentralize policy. We get, you know, most of our rivers are snow-fed. We try to extract hydropower from our rivers. We still have not extracted anything more than 10% of our potential hydro capacity, which is a shame. We don't treat our wastewater. Our sewerage treatment plants, most of our sewage treatment plants are defunct. And you know, I think mayors from across the country will agree with me. There should be a separate session where mayors from across the country can complain, whine and crib. The reality is that we have not, from our conviction at the policy level, empowered grassroots institutions. In ways more than one, they continue to be trophies of our rhetoric. You know, the Honorable Mayor from Gangtok said that the Public Health Engineering Department handles water issues. The reality is that the City Council should plan water management and the Public Health Engineering Department should implement the policy. But trust me, that doesn't happen. It might happen on paper, it doesn't happen. And I hope it happens in the future. Srinagar is trying to evolve water smart practices, both in management, distribution, and checking the quality of water that we disperse. Water smart practices are scientific, they're simple. The amount of water that we can save from wastage. I believe every city in the country, it's the challenge for every city leader, the challenge for every planner to ensure that we continue to recycle and save, especially for tourist cities. You know, all of you must have seen how Shimla was in the news a few years back when the city ran out of water. And people in Shimla came out on the roads and appealed to people from the neighboring states not to come to Shimla as tourists. Imagine the optics, the damning optics of that situation. That's a tourist city, which prides itself to be a tourist city, is asking people not to come to that city. And I fundamentally believe that this is not a problem of the nature's evolution or the nature's theory. It's fundamentally a problem of inadequate haphazard planning, as most of our problems are. So we are also trying to evolve water smart practices. I think we, in cities like Srinagar, ecologically sensitive cities like Srinagar, need a special emphasis and focus on localized, decentralized planning. Then we also need to work on sewage treatment plants and a network. As Man rightly said, you have to fit in the loop, it's a circle. And the circle will be complete at the local level. You might start it at a policy level, but for the circle to come around, you need contributions at the decentralized level. And that can only happen through urban local bodies. That will not happen through government bureaucracy. That's not how we've designed our bureaucracy. We have a top-heavy centralized bureaucracy, and we will have to challenge that. We will have to question the way our system is aligned to ensure that we, not just in terms of water management, but in terms of general policy, mobility, for example, try to evolve better decentralized mechanisms of meeting our urban challenges. And water security continues to be an urban challenge. As I said, our glaciers are retreating, our springs are dying, our rivers are nearly halving in their capacity at the basin level. So it is an apocalyptic situation. If we don't take note of it now, I think there will be a point of no return. I don't mean to sound alarming, but that's quite possible the way we're headed. And yes, I should have the insight, the realism as a mayor, as should a bureaucrat, that we are not experts. We should get live field experts and allow them to create policy, which we then implement in close coordination with them and under their supervision. Thank you.
Thank you. And so, next speaker, Puneet Srivastava.
Namaste everyone. My name is Puneet Srivastava and I work with an organization called WaterAid in UK as an urban wash advisor, and my role is basically to support utilities and municipalities in the urban water and sanitation program of the organization. So the discussion topic today was that when I read about the announcement for this summit, it said that 10 years to go. The instant thought was, I know there's still a lot of time to go actually, because our target is 2030, Sustainable Development Goals. But if you see the way the water resources crisis is happening, and the water management crisis is happening, and the population that is struggling to get safe water supply or sanitation, then this time will appear very, very short. And therefore, business as usual will not do. We have to think of new ways of working together as cities, towns and city administrators. WaterAid is an organization which was formed by water industry in UK, and it still enjoys a lot of good relationship with water industry in UK. But what I am going to cover in my topic is what is that way. So what do we do in a family when we come across a problem? We look up to our elders who have already faced that problem and learn from their experience about how I can, manage my problem. If you scale it up in water sector or water supply sector, it is called Water Operators Partnership. So Water Operators Partnerships is basically peer-to-peer support partnership between water and sanitation service providers. It may be a municipality, it may be a utility. Not everywhere we have a utility, particularly in South Asian context, municipalities play a very central role in delivery of water supply and sanitation. So what we are harnessing is through partnership is basically skill, knowledge and goodwill within a strong utility to build and improve the performance of another utility or municipality that needs assistance or guidance. So we should be open to that. And the advantage is that it doesn't go in the consultancy mode, that some consultant from outside come and tell you something to do and then goes away. It's not like that. It's more or less a long-term partnership where a municipality or a utility which has already done that. It's not that we are facing in our respective cities, whether it is a Srinagar or a Gangtok, a problem that has never been faced by any other utility within the country or outside of it. Somebody somewhere has faced that problem and addressed those challenges, particularly in water management. Can we learn from that? So these are the not-for-profit partnerships between two utilities, two municipalities, and maybe many municipalities supporting on different respect to one municipality or utility. So for that kind of partnerships are there. These are the features, and these water operators partnerships are internationally recognized way of moving towards betterment of management of our water supply better managing of water resources, as our Honorable Mayor from Srinagar mentioned, that it can be very different outlook from a city in plains. When you are talking of Gangtok or Shimla or Srinagar. So, duly respecting the diversity of the challenges that we face in our cities and towns, we need to remember that somebody somewhere has done this. Now for WaterAid globally, we have used this approach in 4 of the countries: Nepal, Ethiopia, Malawi and Zambia. And you can see the names over there of the utilities who were mentors, and the utilities or the municipalities who were the mentees, and then what was exactly done, in which areas the mentoring has happened and the performance has improved in terms of giving basic access to safe water supply to everyone. Then there are still a number of water operators partnerships that we are considering for supporting. In Uganda, Tanzania, we have 2, and in PNG and Cambodia, and finally in India, the state of Odisha. So, why water operators partnership? Why we are talking about this now? When I said that 10 years to go, if you go by the way you are doing things, you are going to miss the SDG. You are not going to achieve it. And therefore what I am saying is that we have to accelerate. And if we have to accelerate, then we have to see whether we have enabling conditions in our South Asia for this now. And I did a recent study for WaterAid, which actually gives us hope for South Asia, and which says that among the South Asian countries, out of the about 5 countries from South Asia region were there out of the 26 countries that were assessed, and we had assigned weightages along multiple parameters. And you will be happy to know that India ranked first among 26. Then we had Pakistan ranked 4th, Nepal ranked 5th, and Bangladesh 8th, and finally Myanmar ranked 19th. So in most of the countries in South Asia, the best time to work and develop water operators partnership to improve our performance is now. Wherever we have reached in our infrastructure, in our capacity, in our planning, in our water resources. So water operators partnership is basically, we have been in this particular session there were certain topics that were given to us as a speaker to think of, but all of them can be part of your water operators partnership area of focus. So I am not going into the detail of this, but the first and the foremost important challenge is accessibility and equitable distribution to all. How do you ensure that? And I think that is the challenge in an intermittent system that everybody faces. So we have some water operators partnership which has tackled this with the development of low income customer support units in slum areas, in urban areas, and there was a water operators partnership between Uganda and Zambia which talked about that and worked on that. Reduction of non-revenue water is a big challenge. How do you do that in intermittent system? Government of Odisha recently called us, and then they are trying to now convert their intermittent system in Bhubaneswar and Pune. They did a pilot project where they are converting it into a continuous water supply system. And believe me, the NRW has come down to a very significant level once they have converted it to the continuous system. So I think that the recent study by UNICEF assessed it at around around 5% in those pilot areas, then around 26% earlier. So these kind of options are continuously being built up, and these areas can be supported. Challenges in water management and mitigation measures. So this can be part of. So suppose you are facing these challenges in your municipality or utility. This can be part of building your capacity on water operators partnership. Like you can see, borehole CCTV survey and improvement works. Borehole rehabilitation is a major challenge. Groundwater training most of the people, our managers, don't understand the science of groundwater. How do we train them on this? And there are examples where we have tied up with other digital platforms which are very low cost and free softwares which can be used by utilities in developing countries at a very almost free of cost, and they can be used for in terms of data management. So like in water, we did this in Haiti and Ghana and El Salvador. And in India, you can see that Boulder constructed a lot of decentralized wastewater treatment plants in the southern India, and you can see those dots over there, which are mapped on a pre-platform called in water. Somehow this gives you a very real picture of how the things are moving on a GIS platform, almost free of cost. So whatever assets we have, can we do, I mean we are using our Android-based mobile phones for almost everything now, can we do it for smart management of our water supply assets? Yes, we can, our experience shows. And you can see that I am coming from Africa Water Congress, where we talked about this, about how we can use our mobile for management on a day-to-day basis, including the supply hours, the quality of water, and almost everything that you can see across the water supply cycle. So, are these the right solutions for the right context? So, I think the key take-homes from my presentation would be that, of course, to achieve SDG 6, we have to focus on sector strengthening. That means you have to build the capacity of the people who are responsible for delivery. And that has to happen through water operators partnership, we say, but then it is normally water and sanitation operators partnership. And then they can invest in their capacity to improve their performance on a certain performance improvement plan that you make, because SDG is not only about access, it's also about management, and the language is very clear. We can make access, but we can miss out the management part. Yes, sir. So they can be short term, medium term, or long term, anything between 3 to 10 years and beyond this partnership. And the new add-on challenge for us in municipalities and utilities is the cross-cutting issue of climate change adaptation and the impact on the water resources on that, and how do we ensure almost a very good representation of gender in the management task. And this gender issue and this climate change in the management of water supply and sanitation is a cross-cutting issue globally, and we can build that up our capacities to improve on both as a part of the upcoming water operator partnership that you may think for your cities and towns. Thank you so much for giving me a patient hearing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Puneet Srivastava. So the next speaker, the last speaker of the session would be Mr. Ranjan Panda.
Thank you, Dr. Sitharam, and with my distinguished co-panelists, friends. I think there's one thing that now we need to understand about water. Like all the supply, utility management and all, these are all fine. But I think why we have actually come across to a situation that we are very scared. That we are actually scared of a water future. We are scared that we have already utilized, the share of our water of the grandchildren, our children, and we are now trying very difficult to find a solution. And I think some of the panelists have made very pertinent observations, and 2-3 things I want to pick up. One is because we have actually taken water as a domain that civil engineers have to do. The second is actually water is only for us, the human beings. So we are always concerned that how our water supply is going to be sustained. And in that we have forgotten that actually in the obsession to supply water for us, we have actually killed the future of our own. The third thing is actually the obsession for the kind of growth, the concretization that we actually are obsessed with. So I think somehow if we look water within these 3 frameworks, within these 3 windows, then we can find a lot of solutions. And then I go back to Dr. Sitharam when he says about the large dams, because he wanted us to highlight that. I think that is the approach that is actually now, that has taken a heavy toll on the kind of water we have now. At a point of time, Arthur Cotton and all, they were respected people. We realized that actually dams were very much essential, that to store water. But then another side of it, we did not work. We destroyed the entire catchment of rivers. We destroyed the entire catchment of water bodies. We destroyed the water bodies, and actually we only concentrated, as the mayor of Srinagar was very rightly saying, our entire planning is centralized, top heavy, centralized. Similarly, in water, we have forgotten one basic principle of planning. That is, water is actually, it makes a decentralized planning. Because water itself, for countries like India or South Asia, many countries, is a resource that is basically recharged by the monsoon. And monsoon is a factor that is decentralized. Monsoon doesn't fall on the only 6% of India's geography where the dams are storing your water. Monsoon actually falls across all the 100% of India's geography. So the basic principle of water that we have forgotten, and that now need to revive, is catch water where it falls. And unless we go back to these basics, we are actually not going to be able to solve our water crisis. And dams are not going to help us in that because of 2-3 reasons. One, because dams obstruct the river flow, and that means all the kind of that climate change challenge that we are now talking about, and that also exacerbates the water problems. One of the major issues that dams create is they don't only destroy the catchment, the forest. At least there is a study of 28,000 large dams in the world, and only these 28,000 dams, they contribute to 4% of the total global greenhouse gas emissions. So you imagine 6,000 some odd dams in India. You imagine all the dams. So one way dams contribute to climate change. One way dams obstruct the flow. Kaveri, for example, only 5% water is now flowing to the sea. That means you have blocked all these sediments, and you have blocked all these sediments that are actually creating ecosystems for the sea not to come inside your hinterlands, your coastal areas, and make your water bodies saline. Then they also cause the sea to warm and cause a lot of other problems. So I think dams have a problem. The solution that we have at our hands, and we should understand, is that we should protect our water bodies. We still have, fortunately, like we have destroyed, like the mayor of Srinagar was saying, from 500 before 200 to 20 years, almost half of that. Take the case of Delhi, take the case of Hyderabad, take the case of Chennai. We have just killed all the water bodies that was supposed to actually save us from all the water crisis. I'm very happy that today, as we are sitting here, Madurai, for example, has given a 70 to 80 crore rupees plan to the Jal Jeevan Mission to revive water bodies. So people are actually starting to realize that we cannot do without water bodies, because they harvest the water as it falls, where it falls, and they have a lot of other ecosystem functions. They absorb your flood waters. Along with that, as I said before, you have to limit growth somewhere. I think that is something I would request all the mayors, all the planners, all the people like us, that the kind of growth, I'm very happy that we have set a goal of 5 trillion economy. But then I'm also not very happy that if we go the way we are growing, if we approach the economy in that sense, then we are actually going to destroy. We have already destroyed, within the last 45 years, 85% of all the other species that are important for your ecology to be maintained. So, and concrete, for example, minerals that we extract, they almost, they are responsible for almost all these damages. So I think that the kind of growth we are approaching, I think what I loved in the Srinagar mayor is that we are actually talking about reviving springs. So let us not see river from the riverfront development projects. Actually, riverfront development projects don't develop our rivers. They build very good concretized, picnic spots, but they don't really purify the river. They don't really rejuvenate the river. The forest do that. So I think a time has come that cities work with the catchments, cities work with the forest, cities work with the hills. So we cannot be cities isolated from the entire India and just work for our own water security. So I think my two basic messages is while we work to revive our own water bodies, our own streams within the cities, our own rivers within the cities, we also work with all people around the catchment areas to revive the ecology there. I think then we can find at least some solution to our water security problem. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have finished one round of remarks by all the panelists. Maybe looking at the time, we can go to one or two questions from the floor. And please identify your name and also tell us whom are you asking the question. So either you have answers for water problem, all of you have solution. Yeah, please. The mic, please. No, he's giving.
So my question is to Mr. Vijay Kumar. My name is Asadumar and I work with Aga Khan Foundation based in Delhi, managing its water and sanitation portfolio. My question is to Mr. Vijay Kumar. You discussed about a very great concept of water sensitive index. But will you please just unpack this to understand how this great concept is really helping us to ensure a safe, sustained and reliable access of water? Thank you.
So the concept of water sensitive city index that was developed probably 10 years ago, 11 years ago to be precise, from University of Monash. So idea behind it was to replicate the way natural water cycle works in the city. So for example, you starting from storm water drains. So use biofilters and other natural methods of treating those storm water drains and preventing the pollution going into your water bodies. That is one. Then also you talk about when you plan urban development, you first do an assessment of the catchment of the area. So hydrogeological catchment. Whether that particular area, urban development is going to hinder the flow of groundwater, which may be a catchment area to a nearby lake or not. So that every city developed their own water sensitive guidelines. That guideline becomes sacrosanct for any urban development that was taken up. So that was the key thing that cities adopted. And that led to, and it could be innovated, other cities can adopt depending upon their requirements. But main was city came up with their own water management guidelines, which was linked to the urban development.
One more question from the floor. Yeah, the back side. Somebody in the back. Please identify yourself.
My question is to Mr. Ranjan Panda.
Your name, please.
My name is Sandeep Chachra, Executive Director, ActionAid and Co-Chair World Urban Campaign. That's my introduction. Thank you for this esteemed panel. You were talking of rights of water bodies, and I'm curious to know whether you're really looking at what Supreme Court overturned, the right of River Ganges, and what potentially was also overturned in Ecuador and Bolivia, the rights of Mother Nature. So are you alluding in that direction? And what would be your interpretation?
I think you have brought up a very, very interesting question, Sandeep. Just day before, I think, the High Court of Punjab and Haryana has given the right of a human entity to Supla Lake. So I don't know if Supreme Court, now the Punjab government is trying to challenge that in Supreme Court. It might, but still, they fined both Punjab and Haryana with 100 crore each to actually rejuvenate the catchment areas. Ganges and even Jamuna, I think the cases are still alive in a sense. And what happened in Bolivia and other places, people are still trying. So my point is, as humans, we will always have this obsession to be actually the supreme, and we will try to exploit all the resources only for our use. But for some people like us who want to be the voice of water as well, besides being voice of the humans, the people who are deprived, we should keep on trying to fight for the right of the resources, of the rivers. Like a very recent study says, among all the rivers, beyond 1,000 kilometers, only 37% are now able to flow to the sea. And that's a very dangerous thing, I must tell you. So rivers have a right to flow very freely and healthy. Healthy means all your cities, drains are actually killing the rights of the river to flow healthy, and that is in return killing a lot of our other rights. So I think we should all try, and we should slowly start thinking that we are not supreme and we are not indispensable. Humans can die, humans must die, they will die. Because I am not worried about the earth's survival. When I was doing my, starting my career, I was very much, I was telling I am a soldier of Mother Earth. I am worried about its survival. I think now we humans should be scared. Our survival is at stake because we have put all the other resources survival at stake. So the earth is not going to die. We are going to die. We don't have much time. So let us see that the earth's right to life should be respected.
With this fantastic comment, I think I'll close this session. Why? Because there will be a lot of time for discussion during the tea. You can always discuss over the tea because it's already 5:35, 5:40. So I would love to close this session. I thank the very distinguished panel. I learned a lot from each one of them. It was a very, very unique because each one was different. So thank you so much, and thank you the audience for participation. Thank you.
Panelists, so the water pledge is being flashed on the screen. All right. Distinguished panelists, could you join us as well with the water pledge so that everyone in this room can join us? Okay, ma'am. All right. Yeah, ma'am will join you. We'll repeat after you.
Okay. So this is the water pledge. And
could you stand on either side? Yeah.
So the idea is that I will say and you repeat so that we are taking the full pledge. I pledge. I shall measure and keep count of water like I do with my money, understanding that what I don't measure I mismanage and waste. I pledge I will use the water I already have wisely, judiciously and efficiently, understanding that managing and reducing my water demand provides water and money savings. I pledge I will take conscious water saving actions and share about them with my neighbors, friends, family and workplace. I pledge I will try my best to let not a single drop of water leave my household by making sure I have either used it more than once or recycled or recharged the groundwater. I pledge I will harvest rainwater that runs off my house in any capacity I can and use it for home use or for recharging groundwater. And lastly, given it's a city summit, I pledge I will speak with my city officials to introduce policies that encourage water saving and that penalize or discourage water wastage. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Dr. Bhakti Devi for leading us with the water pledge. And before we hand over the mementos to our distinguished panelists, I must tell everyone that over the centuries, millions have lived without love, but not one among them has lived without water. So put your hands together for water, everybody.
वाटर प्लेज लेने के बाद में मैं कुछ लोगों से बात करना चाह रहा हूँ, बीच में आ गया हूँ, 1 मिनट लूँगा। यहाँ पर जो ग्लासेस रखे हुए हैं, कुछ लोगों ने पानी पिया है, some people have not drunk it, but नहीं, I have already started a campaign for last 2 years that I offer my guest only water when he wants it, otherwise I don't give it. So if he wants, he has to drink the entire glass or half glass of water. So even in the hotels, I fight with the general manager of the hotel, and only 3 days ago, 4 days ago, I was in Ahmedabad and I tweeted from the Ummed hotel. I took the staff along and held their meeting that you don't waste water. Keep a bucket there, all the half glasses of water should be put in that and give it to the gardeners daily and let me observe it. For 5 days I was in that hotel. So this is my fight going on with, because this is the best water that we are going to waste. So this is a human tendency of wasting best water. So don't waste best water. So can you raise your hands to say that you can, this is new place I am trying to do, because this is practical. इस होटल में सिराडी गोवा में यदि रोज 500 ग्लास पानी बच सकता है तो बचाना इनके जनरल मैनेजर की जिम्मेदारी है, हमारी भी जिम्मेदारी है. But we should try to actually implement it rather than because I also work in the sector of water. I have saved an 800-acre big wetland in Indore. So I am really wanting all of us to do what walking the talk. Thank you very much.
That I have had 76 fights already with people who waste water in hotels. In one hotel called Dalma in Bhubaneswar, a woman actually went to police station to file an abuse case against me because I asked her not to waste water. I think we need all to take these kind of actions, even if there are challenges. Thank you so much.
Mr. Vijay Kumar, we congratulate you for protecting water, and if you have another 24 fights, you will score a century, a different type of century. Congratulations. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here about to present mementos to a distinguished panel who gave us such lovely ideas and inspirational thoughts. First, I would like to invite Mr. Sunil Vellinger, advisor at the All India Institute of Local Self-Government, to kindly hand over a memento to the chair of this panel discussion, Professor T.G. Sitharam, Director IIT, Guwahati. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Also calling on Khurshid Malik, advisor LSG in Srinagar, to kindly hand over a memento to Shakti Choudhary, Mayor of Gangtok. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Requesting Srimati Choudhary, President of Municipal Council in Yavatmal, Maharashtra, to kindly come forward and give away a memento to Dr. Bhakti Devi, who's done such wonderful work in Australia and India. Requesting the Mayor of Rudrapur to kindly do the honors and felicitate Mr. Vijay Kumar. who is so passionate about this field. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause. I request Mr. Shawiq, Senior Manager, Program Manager at EU, to kindly felicitate Junaid Mattu, the Mayor of Srinagar. Okay, I would request Mr. Raviji to kindly do the honors. Ladies and gentlemen, Deputy Director General of all the local self-government, Honoring Junaid Mattu. And the Mayor of Haldwani, requesting you to kindly felicitate Puneet Srivastava. And requesting Mr. R.P.S. Yadav, Director Capacity Building Training Program, to so kindly do the honors and felicitate Ranjan K. Panda. Ladies and gentlemen, once again a big collective round of applause for our panelists and the team at All India Institute of Local Self-Government. And not forgetting to remind you, Goa Tourism has sponsored a wonderful Goa extravaganza cultural program at the Mandovi Lawns right here at Srivastava. So people who are even not staying in Srivastava are requested to be present for the cultural program, followed by dinner right here at Srivastava. So this program is at Mandovi Lawns. Please be there sharp between 6:30 and 6:45, because the program will be something not to be missed out on. Goa